I messed around at Nanchang Vocational School for 3 years. There are 2 things I'm most proud of. No one on the whole backstreet dared to touch my people. Second, I was arch rivals with Lu Ruyan from the hairdressing class. But if you ask me about the biggest regret of my life, it would probably be that Friday midnight. I was wearing a cheap black wig and appeared in the city library's 24-hour study room. Because the girl sitting across from me, with a bare face, wearing a white dress, and silently crying over a higher mathematics paper, happened to be the one who threatened to corner me after school that day. The boss lady, from that second on, my life as number 10 went completely out of control. Who at Nanchang Vocational School doesn't know that number 10 from the auto repair class and Liu Ruyan from the hairdressing class are natural enemies? This story starts from the year I first entered vocational school. While queuing at the cafeteria window, she cut in front of me and said, "Are you blind?" She turned her head, wearing full eyeliner and blood-red lipstick, chewing bubblegum and smiling at me, which I saw me cutting the line. Then she stepped on my foot, and she was wearing studded Dr. Martens. Since then, we became the recognized representatives of the 2 major powers in the vocational school, staring each other down when meeting in the hallway, mocking each other when meeting in the cafeteria. Even people from the next class would consciously take a detour when passing between us. My little brother Zhang Wei shouted every day, "Brother Hao, just say the word." And today, well, take care of that group from the hairdressing class. Every time, I would calmly wave my hand. What's the rush? It wasn't that I was generous. It was that I had an online foundation course for higher mathematics at 4:30 p.m. That's right, the big boss of Nanchang Vocational School, Shi Hao, was preparing behind everyone's back for the top-up degree exam. The reason was simple. My mom had been selling tofu in the market for 20 years. One day she came home and told me, "Son, Mom doesn't ask you to be rich and powerful. Mom just hopes you can sit in an office with air conditioning later. Don't be like Mom, where as soon as winter comes, hands are covered in chilblains." While saying this, she was peeling an apple for me with her trembling hands. I didn't say anything at the time. I went back to my room and searched online for the top-up degree registration requirements. But this absolutely could not be known by anyone. For a big boss at Nanchang Vocational School to take the university entrance exam was more embarrassing than him begging for mercy in public. So I came up with a seamless plan. During the day, I'd continue being the blonde-haired boss. And at night, I'd sneak to the city library's 24-hour study room to study. To prevent being recognized, I specifically spent 30 yuan to buy a black wig and a pair of black-rimmed glasses. I looked in the mirror. Practically 2 different people. Zhang Wai asked me where I was going at night. I said I was going to the internet cafe for an all-nighter to play rank matches. He said, "Brother Hao, you're amazing. Pulling all-nighters every day. Can your body handle it?" I said, "I can handle it. I'm young, right?" In reality, what I did all night were limits and calculus. 3 months passed like this. Everything was calm. Until that damn Friday. That night at 11:30 p.m. I was the only one left in the study room. It was drizzling outside. Raindrops tapped on the glass. Rustling, sitting down. I was painfully struggling with a polar coordinate conversion problem. I had already used 7 sheets of scratch paper. The answer I calculated was longer than my ID number. It clearly wasn't right. The door opened and someone sat down across from me. I didn't look up and continued calculating. I caught a glimpse of white. Probably a girl in a dress. I calculated for the 8th time. The answer finally got a bit shorter. I breathed a sigh of relief. Lifted my head, wanting to stretch my neck. Then my red pen fell straight onto the table. A white cotton dress. Smooth and soft black. Straight hair, a plain face without even lipstick. She looked like a completely different person from that smoky-eyed boss lady during the day. But I'd recognize that face even if I were blind. Liu Ruyan, she was holding a top-up degree higher mathematics book, while struggling with math problems and, frustratingly scratching her hair. Her eyes were red, looking just like a mistreated rabbit. My brain froze for a full 3 seconds. Then she also looked up. The air froze. Her mouth opened into an O shape, then quickly turned into a straight line. She stared intently at that wig on my head. Her gaze scanned me for 5 seconds like an X-ray. After 3 seconds of dead silence, I was the first to lower my voice, speaking through gritted teeth. "Didn't you say you were going to the skating rink to cause trouble tonight?" She took a sharp breath, her arms clutching the math book on the desk tightly to her chest, as if protecting some top-secret document. "Didn't you say you were going to the internet cafe tonight for ranked matches?" We glared at each other, as if engaged in a silent confrontation and deterrence. The sound of rain outside suddenly became very. I calmed down first. After all, in someone who's been doing math problems for 3 months, I still have some logical thinking. "Liu Ruyan," I said in as much of a negotiating tone as possible. "I think we can talk." She looked at me warily. "Talk about what?" "Talk about how to ensure that no third person knows about tonight." She stared at me for 5 seconds. Her eyes darted around, then slowly nodded. And so, under the table of the city library's 24-hour study room, my nemesis and I reached a humiliating peace treaty. Whoever dares to expose that the other is secretly studying is a dog. The first week after signing the treaty, our seats in the study room were separated by 3 tables. She was memorizing words at the far east end. I was doing math problems at the far west end. Like there was a 38th parallel between us. Neither of us looked at the other, but problems soon arose. Wednesday night, she walked over holding a math test paper, slapped it on my desk. "Shi Hao, have you always been this good at math?" Her tone was as sour as thick salted pickles. I saw it was a transcript from last week's mock exam. A math score of 11. 11 points, Liu Ruyan. I flipped the paper over, looked at it carefully. "This isn't called taking an exam. It's opening a mystery box. You get more than 11 points just by picking C for everything." She snatched the paper back. Her face was flushed red. "You think I don't know that?" I couldn't even understand the questions, okay? I was silent for a second. "What was your English score?" She raised her chin, showing a rare hint of pride. 83, got all the reading comprehension right. I was silent again. My last English mock exam was 29, and that was only because I wrote, "Name is Shi Hao," and got 2 points for the name. The closed test. I filled in with my eyes closed. She noticed it too. Her eyes narrowed. "It doesn't matter what your English score is. You said it's about the same as your math." She stared at me for 5 seconds. Suddenly, as if discovering a new continent, his eyes lit up. I was too familiar with that expression. Whenever he thought of some devious trick during the day. "Number 10, I think we can talk again." Just like that, we were forced to form an underground study alliance. The rules were simple. Every night from 10 p.m. to 1 a.m., he taught me English, and I taught him math. During the day at school, we continued to play the role of incompatible arch-enemies. The biggest difficulty encountered at the execution level of this arrangement was the daytime acting was too damn hard. Monday, at the back stairs of the teaching building, I cornered Lu Ruyan against the wall, slamming my arm against the wall beside him, leaning my body forward, with a fierce look in my eyes, acting aggressively. Zhang Wai's sharp intake of breath came from the end of the hallway. Holy crap, Brother Hao was about to make a move. The lackeys nearby all nervously clenched, their fists ready to rush forward. In reality, I was using my body to block everyone's view, extremely covertly slipping a note full of math formulas into his uniform pocket. "That polar coordinate problem from last night. You got 3 decimal points wrong." I lowered my voice, fiercely giving an ultimatum. 3 decimal points. "How did you even do that?" "Redo it tonight." He glared back at me fiercely, while one hand quickly slipped an irregular verb list into my pocket behind his back. "If you mismemorize again, class monitor, it'll kill you." "And Wednesday. You spelled it Wednesday last time. Do you have a grudge against D and N?" I gritted my teeth, raising my voice a bit. "You just wait. You're the one who should wait." I turned and walked away. my coat fluttering in the wind. Zhang Wei came running after me, looking both nervous and... Brother Hao, what did he say? Why is your face so red? Should I call some people? No need, I'm just pissed. Wednesday, in the cafeteria. I was carrying my tray, looking for a seat. I turned my head and saw Lai Royan sitting in the corner. A bowl of noodles was set before him, but the chopsticks hadn't moved. He had his hands hidden under the table, secretly gesturing something in the air. I got a bit closer before I could see clearly. He was writing math formulas with his fingers, and he was still writing them wrong. The derivative formula. He wrote the plus sign as a minus sign. I sat down across from him, slamming the tray onto the table. With a thud, everyone around us looked over. The air grew tense again. Liu Royan. I stared at him expressionlessly. Are you trying to provoke me on purpose? He froze for a second, then immediately caught on, rolling his eyes in cooperation. What's it to you? He'll sit wherever I want. I pushed the tissue box in front of him. A note was pressed under the tissue box, on which was drawn the complete solution to that problem. I specifically circled the derivative formula with a red pen. Next to it, I wrote 4 words. It's plus, not minus. I said it, you just wait. I got up and left. Without even eating. Zhang Wei was chasing me from behind. Brother Hao, your braised pork. Brother Hao, you barely ate anything today. I waved my hand. I lose my appetite when I see him. The real reason was that if I stayed for one more second, I wouldn't be able to stop myself from correcting his mistake in person. This underground spy war style of life lasted for a whole month. By day, I was a yellow-haired punk with a mouthful of foul language. At night, I was a miserable candidate tortured by English reading, feeling more dead than alive. By day, she was the big sister of the hairdressing class, chewing gum and walking with a swagger. At night, she was a poor student scratching her head at a math textbook. We jumped back and forth between 2 worlds, just like some low-budget version of a spy movie. The most thrilling time was at the school canteen. She was picking out things at the shelf over there. I was buying water over here. She wanted to take a pack of tissues, and I also wanted to take mineral water from the same row. When our hands reached out, she took the opportunity to stuff a crumpled paper full of English notes into my palm. The movement was as smooth as flowing water, smoothly exchanging intelligence like secret agents. But the canteen owner nearby looked at us with a meaningful smile. You two have a pretty good relationship. Always bumping into each other. Luo Royan and I turned our heads at the same time. The tacit understanding was horrifying. The owner smiled, waved his hand, and stopped talking. But I always felt that smile was ambiguous. It let him see through everything. But he was just too lazy to expose it. There was another time even more ridiculous. Free activity during P class. I leaned against the playground fence pretending to look at my phone. In fact, I was secretly browsing English vocabulary. Liu Royan passed by with her gang of delinquent girls, deliberately saying loudly, "Oh look, number 10 is looking at his phone. Are you chatting with some little girl?" I didn't even lift my head. None of your damn business. She snorted and walked past. But as she passed by me, her hand naturally stuffed a note into my pocket. When I went back and looked, it was an English essay template. On it, 5 high-frequency sentence patterns were marked in red pen. Beside each pattern, there were Chinese annotations. The handwriting was very small and neat. You could tell at a glance it took a lot of time. A line of words was written at the very bottom of the note. Memorize it before you come to argue with me again. At least learn the English for swearing well. But there wouldn't be such a plot in a spy movie. One night, she was tutoring me on English reading comprehension. The reading passage was very long. She couldn't see clearly, so she moved her chair next to mine. Very close, so close that I could see her eyelashes curve. She leaned in to look at my paper. Her hair almost brushed against the back of my hand. For the first time, I didn't smell that cheap apple scent from the day. That stuff was so pungent, it could be used as pepper spray. Instead, it was a fresh peach scent. The smell of shampoo. She pointed with her pen tip at a long sentence in the 3rd paragraph. The subject of this clause isn't this. It's led by the witch after it. Her wrist touched the back of my hand. Just for a moment. Light as a feather, landing on water. I, someone who had hit people with a wrench. The boss of the repair class who usually disassembles engines by hand without flinching at that moment. Actually felt that small patch of skin on the back of my hand was incredibly hot. I stiffly looked away, staring at a line of text on the paper. I couldn't process a single word. Out of the corner of my eye, I could see her fingers. The nails were trimmed very clean. No nail polish. She was a completely different person from the big sister with crimson nails during the day. The tip of her ear turned a bit red. Neither of us spoke, both pretending to look at the questions. Silence for about 30 seconds. She cleared her throat. This clause's subject is, I said. Another half hour passed. That night, I couldn't read a single word of the reading comprehension. But I got full marks for that question later. Not because I understood it, but because I remembered every word he said while he was teaching English. Sometimes his voice would soften, not as boisterous as it was during the day. The ending sounds would trail off a bit longer, with a kind of tenderness that he probably hadn't even noticed himself. It's over, I'm completely finished. After realizing I'd fallen for him, I did something any normal man would do. Pretend nothing happened. But things were clearly out of my control. For example, I started noticing things I shouldn't have noticed. He likes to shake his pen cap when memorizing words. His left canine tooth would show slightly, and he would give a small fist pump when getting a math problem right, as if quietly cheering himself on. When tired, he would rub his glasses with the back of his hand, and then keep rubbing after that, curling up into a small ball, like a sleepy cat. For example, once he fell asleep on the desk, with an English book pressed against his mouth, breathing very lightly and evenly. The library air conditioning was too strong, and he got a layer of goosebumps on his bare arms. I looked at him for 2 seconds. Then I took off my jacket and draped it over his shoulders. The movement was very gentle, so gentle that even I felt it wasn't my style. He didn't wake up, just subconsciously pulled the jacket a bit tighter, rubbing his face against the sleeve. Meeting at school the next day, he rolled his eyes at me as usual, and I gave a cold snort as usual. But that night when coming to the lab, he brought me a can of hot coffee, placed it on the corner of the desk, and said nothing. I didn't say anything either. Opened it and drank it. It was black coffee. I had never told him what kind of coffee I liked, but he seemed to just know. Something happened when the top-up exam was a month away. There was a guy over there named Lu Kun. We had a history. Specifically, his lackey hit my lackey's motorcycle. We couldn't agree on the compensation, so a grudge was formed. This guy had been looking for a chance to vent his anger, and suddenly brought a group of people to the vocational school to cause trouble. He specifically called me out to fight. The location set at the abandoned factory in the north. Time, Friday night at 8 p.m. This news spread like wildfire through the vocational school. My lackeys were itching for a fight, each one looking like they'd been injected with chicken blood. Brother Hao, we must teach him a lesson this time. Seeing Zhang Wei clutching his fee, net and shouting, I sat on the rooftop, looking at the gray skyline in the distance. Silent, thinking not about how to fight, but about next month's exam. If I go and my hand gets injured, let alone doing math problems, I won't even be able to hold a pen. All the effort of this past half year, and my mother's frostbitten hands would have suffered for nothing. If I don't go, then my reputation at the vocational school will be completely ruined, and anyone can step on me in the future, and my guys won't be able to hold their heads up. I thought all day and made a decision to go, but I couldn't let Lu Ria know, because I am very, very clear that with that woman's personality, she would 100% show up, and showing up would just cause trouble. I wouldn't be able to answer to anyone. Friday afternoon, I stopped her in the hallway. She saw me, and prepared to roll her eyes as usual, but I didn't roll my eyes at her. Seizing the chance, I looked into her eyes, and said in the coldest, harshest tone of the past 3 years, Liu Royan, don't come to the library anymore. Staying with someone like you is a waste of time. I've had enough. Her expression froze. It wasn't a freeze of anger, but the kind where someone is suddenly punched and hasn't had time to feel the pain yet. The entire corridor went silent for a moment. Then her gaze changed. From shock to hurt. And from hurt to a kind of stubbornness I couldn't read. She turned and left without a word. Walking very fast. Her back very straight. The hem of her white dress swaying slightly in the wind. I stood there. My nails digging into my palms. Leaving 4 crescent-shaped marks. This is for the best. If she doesn't come, she'll be safe. Friday night, 7:30 p.m. The dilapidated concrete walls of the abandoned factory were covered in flyers. Half of the fluorescent lights overhead were broken. And the remaining half emitted a buzzing hum. The lights flickered. Liu-kun stood opposite with about a dozen people. Clutching clubs and steel pipes in their hands. 7 or 8 came on this side. But to be honest, the odds of winning a fight weren't high. I took off my jacket. I moved my wrist, making it crack and pop. Zhang Wei was beside me, gulping nervously. Brother Hao, maybe we should just shut up? Liu-kun smiled at me with a cigarette in his mouth. Shi Hao, I heard you've been pretty arrogant lately. Today I'll let you know who really calls the shots in Nanchang. He hadn't finished his sentence. Because a deafening engine roar suddenly came from the factory entrance. Everyone turned their heads. A motorcycle equipped with colorful flashing LED lights charged in at a speed that completely defied traffic laws and performed an extremely wild tail flick between the two groups. The tires drew a screeching arc on the concrete floor. Sparks flying everywhere. The motorcycle came to a stop. The person on the bike took off the helmet. Long, straight hair cascaded down. A clean, unmakeup head face. The white dress was pressed against her body by the wind, along with an aluminum baseball bat from Woknosware. Liu Ruyan got off the motorcycle, carrying the bat in one hand. She strode towards me. Her heels clicked sharply on the concrete ground, step by step, as if knocking on my heart. The whole scene seemed to have been paused. Liu Kan's men looked at each other in bewilderment. My underlings were dumbfounded. Zhang Wei's mouth was open wide enough to fit a whole steamed bun. She walked up to me and grabbed my hand. It wasn't the arrogant force from earlier today, but a trembling, death grip intensity. Her hand was ice cold, but the grip was burning hot. Shi Hao, are you out of your mind? Her voice was trembling. Her eyes were completely red. The tip of her nose was red too. Then she turned around, facing Liu Kun's gang, and slammed the baseball bat onto the ground. The sound of aluminum hitting concrete echoed in the empty factory for several seconds. Next month, he has to take an advanced mathematics exam. Her voice was so loud the entire factory building shook. Whoever dares to hurt his hand that holds a pen today, he'll make sure they leave here on a stretcher. Total silence. Liu Kun's cigarette almost fell to the ground. My underlings were collectively petrified. Zhang Wei, in a voice like a mosquito, asked the person next to him, advanced math how Jia. But I couldn't hear anything anymore. I only saw Liu Ruyan standing in front of me. She was clearly so nervous her whole body was shaking. Her knuckles gripping the baseball bat had turned white. She was even holding the bat upside down. The bat's thick end was pointing at herself, and the thin end was pointing at the opponent. But her back was perfectly straight, blocking me firmly from the front. The white dress shone brilliantly in the dim light of the ruined factory. At that moment, what status in the underworld? What boss pride? What male god status? What illustrious reputation for performance? To hell with all of it. I took a step forward, and with a backhand, pulled her into my arms. Her whole body froze. The baseball bat fell to the ground with a clang. I wrapped one arm around her shoulder, and used the other hand to take off my coat and wrap it around her. She was shaking all over. I could feel her heart pounding against my chest through the thin white dress. Frantic and fast, I lowered my head, my lips almost touching her ear. My voice kept very low, so that only she could hear. Stop it. I've been memorizing words for 3 days and nights. Not to come here and fight today. She dazed for a moment in my arms, and then gave my chest a hard punch. You lied to me. You said you didn't want to learn from me anymore. You lied, you bastard. Yeah, I'm a bastard. She punched 2 more times, with less and less strength, until finally her hand gripped my collar. No more hitting, no more scolding. She just buried her face in my chest, and gave a muffled sniffle. In the end, that fight didn't happen. Liu Kun looked at me, then looked at Liu Ruyan huddled in my arms. The cigarette in his mouth didn't go out for a long time. Then he showed an extremely subtle expression. Put away the steel pipe. Afterward, he said in the tone of someone who's been there. F***CK, if you had a girlfriend, you should have said so earlier. Marriage between brothers can be discussed. Why bother? Making sister-in-law come all this way in the middle of the night? She's not my. All right. Let's go. Liu Kun waved his hand at his subordinates, and patted my shoulder before leaving, whispering in a low voice. Sister-in-law is pretty. Take good care of her, and good luck with the exam. Then they left. Just like that, Liu Ruyan from my arms struggled out, her blood spreading from her neck all the way to her ear tips. Who is his sister-in-law? I opened my mouth, finding that no matter how I explained, it would only make the situation more complicated. So I closed my mouth. Zhang Wei weakly raised his hand in the distance. So how gay? Are you really studying advanced mathematics? I sighed. Yes, my subordinate asked in disbelief. Then every night you weren't going to the net cafe to play ranked? No, I was going to the library to do calculus. A collective silence for 5 seconds. Zhang Wei's worldview shattered into pieces. Then you, under the yellow hair, you still wear a wig? Yes, a black one, yes. And wearing glasses? Yes. He looked at me, then at Liu Ruyan. His expression like he had swallowed a live frog. How gay? Just how many things have you been hiding from us these past 3 years? Liu Ruyan added coldly from the side. Whenever it comes to abandon, he still misspells it even now. The entire way back. My underlings looked at me like I was an alien. Liu Ruyan walked beside me, with her head down, not saying a word. I didn't speak either. But the distance between us changed from 3 tables to half an arm's length. After that day, the Underground Study Alliance officially upgraded to a semi-public state. At least within the 2 groups, we didn't have to act anymore. After my underlings were shocked for 3 days, they chose to accept reality, and even started spontaneously standing guard for us. Zhang Wei patted his chest and guaranteed, Brother Hao, you and Sister Yan study in peace. Leave the outside matters to us. The reaction of the delinquent girl gang on Liu Ruyan's side was even more exaggerated. Her best friend Xiao Shui specifically ran over to tell me, Shi Hao, if you dare let our sister Yan fail to get into college, all your tires. Done this. I said okay. During the final month sprint, time flew by. Her math score went from 11 to 67. My English score went from 29 to 71. The process of improvement was painful, and also absurd. For example, she said, I don't understand the geometric meaning of derivatives. I drew 6 diagrams to explain the slope of the tangent line. She looked at the diagrams and pondered for half a minute. Suddenly her eyes lit up, and said, I get it. Then she did a problem and calculated the answer as 700. I asked her how she calculated it. She said, by intuition. I snapped my red pen. For example, when I was memorizing English words, I could never remember any words after abandon. She said, you can't even remember abandon. Why don't you band yourself? Say abandon one more time. Abandon, did you remember it? Next one, absurd. What does it mean? She glanced at me, with an expression so sincere, it was scary. It describes you. I checked the dictionary later. Absurd, ridiculous. Her way of teaching me English was to insult me with every single word. And I actually remembered them all. One day at 1 a.m. By the end of the study session, we both couldn't take it anymore. She lay on the table, with her face buried in her arms, only showing a pair of red eyes. Shu Hao, yeah. Do you think we can make it? I put down my pen and looked at her. The library's fluorescent lights were blindingly white. shining on her face, making the exhaustion on it impossible to hide. Her dark circles were heavy. Her lips were dry and peeling. I thought for a moment and said, if we don't make it, well, try for another year. And what if we still don't make it after another year? Then we'll try again. Anyway, math formulas won't run away. She gave a muffled laugh. Why are you like an idiot? I am an idiot, but I'm better at math than you. She was silent for a while. Her voice suddenly became very soft. Zhihao, thank you. That was the first time she said to me, thank you, without sarcasm, without rolling her eyes, without any aggression. Pure and clean. Those 2 words, my throat felt a bit tight. What are you thanking me for? Your English teaching isn't bad either. Although your teaching method is a bit perverted. She chuckled softly, buried their face back into their arms. About 2 minutes passed. I thought he had fallen asleep. He suddenly said in a muffled voice, if I get in, you'll eat Malatang. The most expensive one in the south of the city, pinky swear. He stuck out his pinky finger, under the fluorescent light. That finger was so white it looked unreal. The nails were trimmed very neatly. Clean and tidy, completely different from those 10 crimson nails. From the daytime world I hesitated for a second. Reached out, and when our pinkies hooked, I felt my heart being squeezed hard by someone. His finger was cool to the touch, but hooked very tightly. On the day of the top-up exam, I woke up at 6 o'clock. Wore a clean, stiff white shirt, dyed my hair back to black a week early. Tidied it up neatly with plain water. Looked in the mirror. Looked quite sharp. Before leaving, I took 3 deep breaths. The admission ticket was in my bag. ID card, transparent stationery bag, and a pack of favorite mints. The exam hall was at the number 3 middle school. After arriving, I waited at the school gate for a while. Saw a figure in a white shirt, standing under a plane tree, head down, muttering something. I walked over, looking at it one last time. Watch out now. What's meant to be forgotten is long gone. He lifted his head, saw me, and froze for a moment. Then he smiled. Not that arrogant smile from the daytime. It was curved and soft. The kind of smile that only appears in the library at 1 a.m. You finally look like a normal person. You too. See you at the gate in 4 hours. Liu Ruoyan and I were wearing clean white shirts, each holding a transparent stationery bag. We walked out of the exam hall side by side. The entrance was a chaotic mess. Zhang Wei pointed at the group opposite. What did you do to my brother Hao? Xiao Cui stood with her hands on her hips. You guys are the ones who did something to Sister Yan. The moment both sides saw us, everyone was petrified. Zhang Wei pointed tremblingly at my black hair. Brother Hao, where's your blonde hair? Xiaoxu looked at Liu Ruoyan in horror. Sister Yan, where's your eyeliner? I naturally took the stationery from Liu Ruoyan's hand, hung it over my own shoulder. What did you choose for the last big question? 4. He lifted his head. Sunlight fell on his face. He smiled with his eyes curving. How about you? Me too. I ruffled his hair. Let's go. Won the bet. He'll treat you to that place in the south. The most expensive Malaton, September. Ex-university freshman registration day. People coming and going at the school gate. I was sitting astride a black motorcycle. That day, the ghost fire bike he rode to the old factory was sold for fees, plus the money I saved from my summer job. Bought this second-hand one. Waited for 20 minutes. I saw him. White dress, long straight black hair, pushing a pink suitcase. Looking all around. Several passing sophomores kept looking back. One with glasses had already taken out his phone, preparing to go up and strike a conversation. I pulled out the bike key, walked over with big strides, grabbed his suitcase before that senior could speak. What are you looking at? The rules of Nanchang Tech. Forgotten? He rolled his eyes. Pulled out the admission notice from the canvas bag. Slapped it onto my chest with a thud. Who's from Nanchang Tech with you? Look clearly. This girl is now in X-University's Economics and Management Department. I let out a laugh, and also pulled out my 2 admission notices for X-University's Mechanical Engineering Department, lining them up in the sunlight. The gold-stamped characters were shimmering. I watched his Adam's apple bob. From bottom-tier performance to a key. University, only we ourselves know. How many moments of breakdown we endured in the midnight library? What are you gazing at? Treat me to Malatang. He nudged me with his elbow. I didn't respond. Turned around and walked to the motorcycle. Took something out of the storage box. Pink. A helmet with cat ears. I saw it online while working a summer job and ordered it before my brain could stop my hand. After receiving it, I stared at those cat ears blankly for 10 minutes. Thinking to myself, number 10. Are you crazy? Then it sat in the storage box for 2 months. At this moment, I walked up to him and put the helmet directly onto his head. While looking down to fasten the buckle, my fingers brushed against the skin of his jawline. The warmth from my fingertips made my heart tremble. I casually helped him tuck his messy hair behind his ear. The distance was very close, and I smelled that peach. Scented shampoo again, exactly the same as in the library. His whole body froze. The tips of his ears were so red they could bleed. I watched him pour out all the words he'd been holding in for who knows how long. What's treating you to Malatang? From now on, you'll not only take care of your meals for 4 years of college, your calculus for a lifetime. I tapped the cat ears on her pink helmet, laughing as arrogantly as back in technical school. Get on. Girlfriend. She looked at me blankly. That sharp-tongued mouth stayed open for a long time, but couldn't curse out a single word. Finally, she lowered her head and quietly reached out to grab the hem of my white t-shirt, gripping it very tightly. The voice was very, very small. Consider yourself sensible. The engine roared. Sunlight filtered through the sycamore leaves, scattering broken crystals, wrapping both arms around my waist. The cat ear helmet and the wind swayed slightly. I took my former archery ball, current girlfriend, and drove into our bright and open future. The Malatang that day was very spicy. She was so spicy she cursed with teary eyes. It's too spicy for me. I laughed while pouring her plum soup, and casually took the spicy one in front of her, and swapped it with my clear broth pot. He glared at me, but didn't swap back. Halfway through the meal, he suddenly asked, Number 10, do you still have that wig? Thrown away, what a pity. It was quite funny. What's funny about it? You, a blonde punk wearing a black wig. Calculus, you tell me what's funny. I thought about it. It really was quite funny. Later he told me that he actually knew from very early on. From when? I asked. From when you draped your jacket over me. That time he bit the straw and didn't look at me. Did you think I was really asleep, dummy? I was stunned, and then laughed for a long time. While laughing, my eyes felt a bit sore. Not because of the spiciness, but because there is really someone in this world who, when you pretend to be strong, sees your efforts, standing in front of you when you are truly vulnerable.